Hey guys, Grifton here, and today we're going to be talking about 5-man tanking as a feral druid in Wrath. Now, before we get started, please take the time to like and subscribe as it really helps me out. And if you want to check me out live, you can jump over at twitch.tv/griftonish and find me there. Okay, now this video is going to actually have Halls of Lightning playing in the background. I'm going to be doing kind of like a play-by-play of what I'm doing to give you an idea of how I'm tanking in Wrath, how everything feels, and just kind of like the tricks that I use to maintain threat. Now, in this particular instance, I'm actually doing something called chain pulling, which means I'm attempting to continue to pull and never stop pulling. That's the goal, so you're always moving. For the most part, our group is pretty set up for this. We do have a mage, which is probably going to suffer from this because they're going to be all the time, but we're probably not going to try to drop combat as much. I'll try to innervate the priest whenever I can, but we're already on our first boss. This guy's name it's like Bargrim or something like that, Bjorngrim or something like that. Pretty easy boss, comes with 2 adds, they do heal him. You could either kick the heals or just ignore it because the heals aren't that big. I just told them to focus whatever they wanted, burn everything down. I did mark Skull because I do plan to pull this guy through, and I want to be people to be able to find the boss. So right here, as you can see, my health pool is staying pretty solid towards the top. We do have a disc freeze, which is probably the best healer for this kind of thing, because regardless of what I'm doing, they're going to have a bubble on me, and I'll be able to just keep on pulling. So once the adds die here, I actually just go ahead and continue to pull. Now, what the rotation would normally be for a single target would be Mangle on cooldown. You're going to do Maul, as long as you got the Rage, which you should, because Rage is usually not an issue in Wrath. And then you're going to lacerate in between the mangles. If you pop Berserk, you're just going to do Mangle, Maul, Mangle, Maul, Mangle, Maul. But for this, when you have adds, multiple adds, you're going to try to do Swipe Maul and save your Mangle when you need to grab some really quick threat. So I have 4 mobs on me right now. If for some reason I need to pump some extra threat into one of them, I can then use my Mangle because it's usually always up because it's not a priority for me. Alright, and as you can see, I'm just continuing to pull even though ads are still alive. This mage is just hating me right now because he's just the whole time. And I'm going to try to gather them as close as I can, collect them, and just start AoEing. So I use an add-on, or actually specifically a weak aura, that allows me to see how much threat I have over the next person on that target. So for like that guy right there in the green, I think it says, man, it's hard to read, but probably because I'm looking on the little screen. Let me put it on a big screen. There we go. So 9.2k on the close guy, 16k on the far guy. So I just want to like maintain those numbers as high as possible, and that's really key for tanking, especially as a bear, because you don't have just like a one-button threat. Like you don't have a consecrate, you don't have a death and decay. You have to generate threat balance. So swipe does help a lot, but you still need to kind of put the damage where it needs to go. So as you can see, I've got threat on most of them, but like I'm gonna look for like anything that's low, and just these guys are melting, so it doesn't really matter. But normally you'd look for like the yellow ones or the red ones, and you'd start putting extra damage to those. So that one's 2.6, so I'll probably hit him. Then I've got 2 red guys. I'll make sure to put threat into those guys. This is kind of a bad example right now because these guys are dying so quickly. Let's look at the next pack. But again, I'm always checking to see what the mana of the healer's like, because that's really going to determine how fast I can go. His mana is really solid here, so we can just keep on pulling. So there's a red, I got to get him back. I taunt him really quick. And that's usually when I use taunt, is on those openers where I target A and like the DPS targets B, and I just don't have enough quick threat to pump into them. So instead I'll just use a quick taunt. But for the most part, you don't really have to taunt if you've got your initial threat on all of them. So now, as you can see, I'm just kind of tabbing through, targeting different ones, building up threat, trying to just make sure everything stays green on my nameplate differential tool that's there. I will link it in the description if you're curious. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to look for anything that's yellow. So 4.9 and 4.4, I'm going to put threat into those guys and just kind of spread the love. And that is important. Don't just fixate on one person, even if you think everyone's putting threat into them. Without that tool, you might not know, and you'll lose threat. So I grabbed 2 more with a Fairy Fire pull, and I'm just going to get those guys comfortable so everyone can just burn down. The mage started blizzarding, so I tried to keep them inside the blizzard to make it more helpful. As you can see, there's also a feral DPS in this group, and he is pumping. So if you're a feral DPS wondering, hey, can I still pump? Yes, you can. I've done enough of these videos. Yes, you can legit pump. He's probably, I mean, he's conducive to this kind of pull anyway. This is kind of a feral stream. Same with a rogue or anyone that doesn't rely on mana. So this one's tricky because I wanted to grab the ads and people were hitting them, and I don't know why, because you can just ignore the ads on this boss if you don't know. Because the boss is all that matters. They disappear as soon as the boss is dead. So I wasn't going to I was going to do a couple swipes on the ads, but because they were hitting him, yeah, look at that. He's just pumping. For this room, because of the fear, you can save Berserk for this room, because if you don't know, Berserk will pop you out of fear. But because you get feared 2 or 3 times and Berserk will only work once, it's really not that big of a deal. The reason I stand there is because I need everyone to be close to me, so I can grab threat before they get hit. If you have everyone spread out, which I see a lot of tanks allowed to do, what you're going to do is you're going to end up getting these ads all over the place, hitting everybody, and it's just going to be so hard to keep everyone like safe and clustered. So you're going to try to just keep everyone close together. You got that mage way in the back. He's probably going to get hit once. Okay, so everyone got feared at the end. The mage is off in the back. We're just going to try to grab when these guys pop right here. There we go. I grabbed the 2 that are closest to the healer, because healer is always prio, and then just get a couple swipes. So I've got threat, and then I just start building up threat just like I do any other time. So again, this is a maul swipe, and then tab, maul swipe, tab, or if I don't tab, I'm actually physically targeting them to make sure I'm putting the threat on the right person. And then again, just use mangle to build that extra threat. You do have a couple cooldowns. I don't tend to use Demo Roar, not because it's not good, just because honestly in heroics it's really not needed and doesn't generate enough threat to do anything really helpful. Okay, so I've got more guys spawning. I'm going to grab the 2 closest to me really quick, keep them off the healer. I'm going to grab this with the guy, taunt him, and there you go. So now I've got all 3. All I have to do is make sure, so what I do here is I actually just make sure I've got good threat on all 3 of them. And then once I see that they're all comfortable, like I'm going to get this guy a couple, and they're all green, I just start going. And then I'm going to pull the next back and let the DPS do their job. And another good trick is I'm getting ahead of the DPS, which is important. If you ever done Violet Hold, where the boss or the ads will spawn like under your feet, it's annoying because you have to build threat up immediately the same time everyone's opening up. It's not a big deal because you have really good snap threat, but if you're chain pulling, you actually get a couple seconds by yourself, like right here, to build up threat without having to worry about the DPS coming in and trying to pull off you really quick. So chain pulling is both a benefit in the sense that you can keep moving and moving, but also it does benefit your threat long term. Quick pause. So I just typed that I'm letting you know I'm going to pause really quick so that they can get mana, just so I don't have to pull a boss with 30% mana here. So I could innervate him, but we're out of combat, so there's really no point. Plus I didn't want to lose the rage. That's really the main point. Even though I'm going to go in and get like instant 100 rage, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to pop Berserk. At least I should, right? Maybe not. Maybe I'm saving it. Oh, you know what? I think I save it for the second cycle because I want to see how the druid was going to do, because druids actually generate a lot of threat in feral and cat form, and I want to see if he came close, because they tend to creep up towards the end as that rip just builds and builds and builds. So I saved Berserk until the second cycle, so after these guys collect, I'll pop Berserk. But yeah, so my health pool is 32,000. Obviously with a priest, it's much higher than it normally would be. It usually sits around 29k. Obviously I'm in mostly pre-raid bists. I will put on my screen what my gear was, because it's not hard to determine. It's just everything that they gave me. I haven't upgraded this guy at all. Maybe some bracers, I think. That's about it. So he's not like anything special. Again, I use Enrage almost on cooldown when I can. It's really great. I try to save it for like right when I'm about to pull, but you want to pull with them hitting you, because it's going to increase your damage. I know you want to enrage before the pull to have that extra rage in it, but because enrage increases your damage, I have an enrage barkskin macro because barkskin does no longer have a GCD, so I'll enrage barkskin and just increase my damage, helping my snap threat just that much more. And then we're going to just keep chain pulling, keep chain pulling. Now, I did notice here that the mana of my healer was low. And I do handle it. I think it's after the second cycle. So these guys spin. You gotta... the reason the healer's mana is low is not because I'm taking tons of damage. It's because there's a lot of AoE that's going on. There's Fork Lightning. There's this thing he pulls. Okay, yeah. So I innervate right there and then go back and grab both of them. It could have been risky, but I think it was worth doing because I didn't want to have to stop chaining. And now the mana pool is full for the healer, and I can just keep on pulling. But yeah, don't be afraid to innervate your healer so you can just keep going. I use haste pots mostly because I think that's probably the best one to use anyway. But another reason would be because there's really not many options on the beta. We only get what we get. I mean, there are people that can make make stuff, but like they're few and far between. And it's easier just to do it. So again, I got both those guys low and had high enough threat that I could walk away from them and just keep on pulling. So yeah, this is like a power move kind of, because what you're really doing is you're showing that you can hold threat on multiple targets, but what you're really doing secretly is allowing yourself to get that quick early threat so that you can hold threat on all these targets. Because doing threat on all of them is fine as long as they're all hitting you. If someone runs in first and pulls all the threat off of you, it's harder to generate threat back because you're not generating enough rage to just press all the buttons. Okay, and then, so we're actually about to hit to the last boss. We've got 3 pulls before. But yeah, so far, the damage is we have a Feral Druid, a Rogue, and a Mage as our DPS. The Feral Druid is by far outpacing the other two. Again, Ferals can pump, so if you're like a Feral Druid and you're debating on going Feral, don't worry, you're gonna pump. But yeah, so as you can see, with only 2 targets, because of Maul being so powerful, I'm easily 30k ahead of the DPS, even the cat, which again, they can do threat. You're gonna see on Loken, he actually starts to creep up to almost 50% threat, which doesn't sound high. I think he might get higher than that. But even if he's like 60 or 70, that's pretty remarkable if you look at compared to most people's threat. But we'll see that when we get to it. I don't want to get ahead of it. So again, I always try to keep my back to a wall so everyone can get behind it. These guys throw people, so I definitely try to put this guy in like the middle area so that if you get thrown back, you don't get thrown into another mob. So like right here is usually where I tank him. So like if someone gets thrown, they usually hit that back wall. Or if I get thrown, I don't go into the mob to the right, because there is a mob that's padding to the right that looks just like this guy. I don't think you get to see him on the screen, but he's off to the left. But we're just going to skip him and go straight into Loken. Now, I have all my cooldowns up with the exception of Enrage, but I've got enough Rage to get started. So we're just going to go straight in. I Fairy Fire, which again does damage, which is awesome, so you get initial threat. And then you're just going to lay into him with Berserk. This is a Mango Maul. Now, he does a Nova, and everyone should right now, but honestly, if you have decent gear, everyone could just stay in. As a tank, I always stay in anyway. I did, to help it out, I popped Survival Instincts. But as you can see, like the threat here, you see this this Rogue creeping up. He's up to 53%. That doesn't sound high, but it actually is. He's up to 60%. That's crazy high threat. Any other tank, maybe with the exception of Warrior, he'd be chasing the tank. That's how close it would get. So yeah, but that was Halls of Lightning. I don't know how long this took. We're looking at 13-14 minutes to do a whole instance. That's it, guys. I hope that at least give you some hope for how strong bears are, give you an idea of how hard they can pump in Wrath. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments. And as always, take care.